Is there too much testing today in the public schools? It's a question more parents, teachers, and school officials are asking around the country. This is the first year scores on new tests tied to the Common Core standards will be published in many states. Some early adopters, like New York State, have already seen student scores dive on the new exams. Now, more parents are opting their children out of tests, and some officials are calling for a timeout when it comes to linking test results to consequences.
Now, the trouble's with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class. You don't do enough work outside of it. You don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea. Don't you realize that mathematics is an important subject?
Well, Florida public schools are seeing a huge drop in enrollment the last few years. Hillsborough County is down 7,000 students from last year.
A big reason for this is the uptick in homeschooling. Fox 13's Evan Moon spoke with two moms who chose to homeschool their kids about why they opted out of traditional public schooling.
Now, why is Bobby clearing his desk? Oh, now there won't be anything to fall off and make noise. You keep on your desk only things you need. That's part of keeping the room quiet.
One of the creepiest things about modern life is that most people can't tell the difference between education and conditioning. Because by the age of 18, the average student has spent over 15,000 hours inside a classroom. 15,000. That is more waking time than many people spend with their parents growing up. And during those years, you're not just learning math or history, you're learning when to speak, when to stay quiet, what gets rewarded, what gets punished, how authority works, how success is measured. You're learning how to exist inside a system. And the craziest part, most of the structure we call normal school was never designed around children's psychology at all. It was designed around factories, literally. Welcome back to Beyond Surface Level, where we like to question what is told and reveal what's hidden. Today, we're going into how schools teach you to obey. In the late 1800s, as the Industrial Revolution exploded, countries suddenly needed masses of people who could follow schedules, repeat tasks, and obey hierarchy and efficiency. So schools began mirroring factories. Bells to signal movement, rows, standardized timing, compartmentalized subjects, strict schedules, performance tracking. Even age grouping is strange when you think about it. In real life, humans evolved learning in mixed age communities. Older children taught younger ones. Learning was hands-on, fluid, integrated with life itself. But schools separated everyone by manufacturing year, like products on an assembly line. And there's an actual quote from early education reformers about creating efficient citizens. Not awakened humans, efficient citizens. There's also something most people never notice. School trains children to detach learning from curiosity. Think about it. A toddler naturally asks hundreds of questions a day. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds migrate? Why do people die? Then slowly, learning becomes associated with grades, testing, performance, comparison, deadlines. Curiosity becomes pressure, and pressure changes the brain. Studies show chronic academic stress in children can elevate cortisol levels, which directly affects memory, focus, and emotional regulation. So ironically, the system built to create learning can biologically interfere with learning itself. But textbooks were never the main curriculum. The hidden curriculum was, and this is where it gets unsettling, because children absorb invisible lessons constantly. Not just what's math, but what type of person survives here. For example, most schools unintentionally teach that speed equals intelligence. Finish faster, test faster, answer faster, memorize faster. But some of the deepest thinkers process slowly. Even Einstein's teachers reportedly thought he was intellectually behind as a child. Many highly creative children get mislabeled early. Because traditional schooling rewards consistency over divergence. There's also something called learned compliance. Researchers have found that students who consistently follow instructions, avoid challenging authority, and mirror expected behavior are often perceived as more academically successful, even independent of deeper thinking. Basically, good behavior can become confused with intelligence. And think about the emotional programming happening. A child raises their hand, gets laughed at once, and suddenly their nervous system associates visibility with danger. That can follow someone for decades. Some adults aren't bad communicators. They're children in grown bodies still carrying classroom humiliation. And maybe the darkest hidden lesson of all, many children learn that their worth is measurable. A number on a paper, a GPA, a percentile, a ranking, which quietly conditions people to tie self-worth to productivity for the rest of their lives. That's the very reason why so many adults feel guilty resting. Their nervous system was trained that value must be earned continuously. There's this story from the 1960s that still messes with psychologists today. A teacher conducted an experiment in her classroom. She told certain students they were intellectually gifted, even though they were chosen randomly. And over time, those same students actually began performing better academically, not because their brains changed overnight, but because expectations changed. The teacher unconsciously gave them more patience, more encouragement, and more attention. This became known as the Pygmalion effect, and it revealed something chilling. Children often become reflections of what authority figures believe they are. Think about how many identities are formed this way. The smart kid, the troublemaker, the lazy one, the gifted one, and the difficult one. Some people spend their entire adult lives trying to escape labels they've received at 8 years old. And while school conditioned behavior, media conditioned identity. By the time the average child turns 18, they've seen hundreds of thousands of advertisements. Thousands. And advertising has never really sold products. You are incomplete until you buy this. You are unattractive until you fix this. And you are behind unless you achieve this. And the children absorb these messages before critical thinking fully develops. That's why childhood conditioning runs so deep. You don't choose your beliefs as a child. You inherit them about beauty, gender, success, love, status, even your own potential. And eventually, people mistake inherited beliefs for personality, when sometimes they're just programming repeated long enough to feel true. And none of this means education is evil. Some teachers change lives forever. Some classrooms become safe havens. Some schools genuinely nurture curiosity. It's awareness. Because once you see the system clearly, you stop internalizing everything it taught you about yourself. Maybe you weren't bad at learning. Maybe you were exhausted, shamed, unseen, or forced into one definition of intelligence. Maybe your creativity wasn't the problem. Maybe your environment didn't know what to do with it. And maybe healing is questioning the beliefs you inherited before you were conscious enough to choose them. Who benefits from you doubting yourself? Who taught you productivity equals worth? Why does rest feel unsafe? And why do mistakes feel humiliating? These questions matter because freedom is not just political, it's psychological. And maybe becoming yourself is less about adding new things and more about unlearning everything that convinced you had to become someone else. Thanks for tuning in. Send this to someone that needs to hear a different perspective. I'll see you next Sunday. Much love.